There we are, like magic. Me, Zach, boom. How about that? Welcome into the show. We will talk about Bryson Hurst commitment. We'll talk about what might come next and all of those different things in the next, 35, 40 minutes, something like that. Who knows? First, I want to tell you that we're brought to you by the College Corner. It's your one-stop Rebel Shop. 2 locations in the Jackson area. In Ridgeland, the College Corner is next to Fleet Feet. In Flowwood, it's next to Half Shell. If you don't live in Jackson, it's okay. It's no problem. You can go to the College Corner at collegecornerstore.com. Plus, you can find them on Facebook and Instagram. So whether you're tailgating in Oxford or home gating with friends and family, the College Corner has you covered for game day, the largest selection of Rebel gear in central Mississippi. I'm in the Clark Ford Studios. Clark Ford's in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900. 662-257-1900. Call that number. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell Corey what Ford product you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's right to the bottom line. No hassle, no haggle. You get your quote, and the rest is completely up to you. You can shop that quote around, or you can do what I've done, what I recommend that you do, and that's hop into a Clark Ford today. 662-257-1900. Zachary, how are you?
Neal, good afternoon. Doing well. Just, preparing for week 0. Got the, I think week 0 will be, the basement will be slightly under construction, if you will. No actual furniture down here yet, but I'll probably have to, improvise and just bring some chairs down here. But
let's talk about this because you got the rock wall behind you.
Yeah.
And you've got what appears to be a thing coming out. Is that where you yell for help?
I actually don't know what that is. It actually houses a box of matches that goes, there's an actual gas heater down here that the guy left that works. So when it's wintertime and we're down here talking recruiting and it's really cold, I can actually light that.
Oh.
Emit heat. But it's on the other side of the basement. Basically got this, we had this huge space that we weren't using. And so I got a projector installed and a couple TVs, got a mini fridge. So I'm waiting on a couch from a buddy who is moving, and then I'm just in the market to find some kind of coffee table. But we're ready. So
a better story would be is that you would just yell into that, say, "Hey, bring me a beer," and down would come the beer, or "Hey, where's the meatloaf?" I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, just kind of like.
Yeah, I guess it could be like a dumbwaiter kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where I could slide down and yeah. I'd have to be ready to catch it, but yeah, that would be nice. But I mean, if I want one, it's just over there, so
yeah,
I can go get it. But
y'all should work on that. Work on making that more of a delivery system. I'm sure your wife would love that idea.
Yeah, she'd love it. Yeah, we had the little one down here earlier today. I was showing him the projector for the first time, so he was watching Bluey on a 100-inch screen. He was a big fan. So
now, Bluey is not Blues like Blue from Blue's Clues, right? I mean, we're no longer. Carson's not quite watching the cartoons anymore. Those days have passed us by.
Yeah. No, Bluey is a cartoon. It's a family of blue healers. There's a thread on the message board about it that might be the most united the message board has ever been. But it's a show that's the family lives in Australia, and the episodes are 7 minutes long. There is no singing, and it's actually pretty hilarious for kids and adults. It's a pretty clever little show. But he loves it. It's that and Disney movies.
So basically what you're saying is the only thing that can bring the Rebel Grove community together during these trying times is Bluey and Ted Lasso. Is that right?
Yeah. It's Jason Sudeikis and a family of Australian blue healers. That's it. So,
there you go. We've solved the crisis.
We figured it out. So, all right.
Bryson Hurst. We said last week Bryson Hurst was the next commitment. We both win the big prize because Bryson Hurst was indeed the next big commitment. He commits to Ole Miss the other night, like at midnight. I looked up and I saw your text when I woke up in the morning, and I was like, Zach knew I was long gone. There was no way I was going to see that.
Yeah.
Bryson Hurst, 4-star offensive tackle from, is it Goshen, Mississippi? Is that where he's from, that area?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I know he's a good player. I've heard a lot about him. I've heard other players talk about him. I remember Timothy Gagofian, I hope I'm saying his name correctly, talking about, hey, I'm going to start recruiting him. He's really important. He's big. I thought something in your analysis was interesting because different staffs have different philosophies. The current Ole Miss offensive line, Zach, this offseason, they made it a priority for all of them to gain weight, to get bigger. That's clearly the style of offensive line that they want. Bryson Hurst is a big boy. He's I think the third or fourth offensive line commitment already, and they're all pretty big fellas. Even if they're not quite as big as what they're listed, they're awfully big. Tell me about Hurst and how much you read into Ole Miss's recruitment of size up front.
Yeah, Neal, I don't remember when I was in high school. I don't remember playing against many guys that were 6'6", 320. They don't grow like that everywhere. And we even played South Panola when I was in high school. They didn't have anybody that big, but yeah, he's incredibly, incredibly large. But look, he's extremely nimble. I put it in my analysis. He's pretty bendy. That's a term that a lot of coaches and scouts use.
So what does that mean for people that are listening to this that are like, I don't really understand what the hell that means? What is it? Can you put that in layman's terms a little bit?
I mean, they're just athletic, flexible. They're not super stiff and 6'6", plus 300 guy that's just, well, if he doesn't get your hands on you, then you can get around him. No, like he's pretty quick. He's got good feet.
He can make a step and make that second step, transfer his weight so that he has balance because you're going up against guys that don't weigh 320 pounds, but you're going up against 260-pound guys typically.
Yeah.
250, 255, 260 guys that are pretty athletic, guys that if typically, they're 6'3", 6'4", and they're typically guys who, if they were 6'8", they would be power forwards. I mean, they're guys who've got real game, who've got real athleticism, guys who dominate the YMCA basketball league if they wanted to. So you've got to be able to keep a big body in front of those guys, or they'll run right by you, and the size doesn't matter.
Yeah, and he's pretty athletic for his size. Already ahead of the curve, and then some with his run blocking. Really strong. He's a power lifter at Goshen. I think I've seen him squat at least 500, maybe more. I mean, he's really strong kid. Lower half is Power 5 ready. And like most high school prospects that aren't named Laramie Tunsil, he's going to need a little bit of work on his pass sets. And that's everybody. It's really hard to be extremely, toned in on how you kick slide, get set in pass blocking. They can work on that. But what you said about the size of the offensive line commits that they have, it's really funny that you mentioned that, because I was actually going back last week and watching some old film on past quarterbacks. I was kicking around the idea of doing something about Matt Corral and his accuracy and, more specifically his deep ball accuracy. And I think you could probably throw some names out there. I think he's probably the most accurate downfield thrower that I've seen since Robert Griffin III when he was at Baylor. And there's a tie in there with Levy and the whole Baylor model of being very physical running the football. You can see that with how they're recruiting offensive linemen. Hurst is 320, Gagafian's 290, and he's 6'7", and then Cushman's 281 and 6'5". They want to get bigger. They want to get more physical. Look, you saw him last year against Alabama. I don't think it's out of the realm to say that they beat up Alabama up front running the football.
I don't think that's out of the realm at all. I thought in that game, if you go back and look at it, both offensive lines, both Ole Miss's and Alabama's, dominated the opposing defensive line. I mean, to the point of it being a beatdown.
Yeah, and so I think that they found something last year. Obviously, they led the conference in rushing yards per game. The whole running back room is back. They're going to have at least a couple of those guys back next year. So they're just trying to build on what they got last year on that offensive line and continue to get more physical, because you got to be able to run the football to keep people honest. And then Kiffin and Levy are going to take what the defense gives them when you try to stop the run, and they can throw it downfield, throw it up the seam to the tight end, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, I think the emphasis on getting more physical at the line of scrimmage is something that they're trying to get to, and I think that they've already addressed it with those 3 commits.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I think if you go back and look last season, the one thing that probably frustrated Lane Kiffin and Jeff Lebby offensively was there was still a couple of times that, you know, in the goal line situations even and stuff where you needed to get a yard, 2 yards, and that was the struggle. The struggle was never to get the 60 yards or to get the 600 yards. The struggle was at times to get the 1 yard, the 1.5 yards. You know, to be able to line up and just go, okay, we're not. This isn't going to be particularly complicated. This is going to be sort of man on man, and we're going to go get ours, and then you'll have to think about that when we line up 1st and 10. In some ways, the same kind of problem that Hugh Freeze and them had at times, but Hugh's problem was they had a tendency to try to get too cute. With Ole Miss last year, I thought it was exactly what you just said. I don't think they were quite as physical up front as they would have liked to have been, and that was a pretty good offensive front, one that includes a guy that I think is going to start for the Green Bay Packers here in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, that was a good line. I just don't know that was – and maybe some of it was mentality, but some of it was obviously size, because like I said at the beginning, they've gone back with those guys, and all of those guys are 15, 20 pounds bigger right now.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it's kind of Groundhog Day for Ole Miss fans. Between the 20s for the past decade, it seems, has never been an issue. It's just in the red zone. And they did it some last year where they were able to punch it in and hit people in the mouth. But I think if you ask Jeff Lebby, he would love to be able to line up heel to heel and just go right at people. I think even at the tight end position, that's an emphasis. Kyron Heath, the guy that they worked out in person, and then they've seen him on film as a junior, very physical run blocker at the point of attack. So that guy that's going to be catching balls at a tight end position still has to be able to block. So, you know, you look back at Levy's days when he was on the Baylor staff and then when he was at UCF, always a very good running team, very physical. So I would honestly say it's 50-50, maybe 60-40, the mentality of that offense. I mean, Corral gets all the fanfare for good reason, and Kiffin's known as this guy that throws it all over the yard. But they want to be able to run the football down your throat.
It's really not who Kiffin is. You know,
Kiffin's a guy that's going to find a matchup, and he is going to poke you in between the eyes over and over and over until you stop it.
Yeah, that's what he does. It's interesting because the rep on Kiffin is a fairly new thing. He goes to Alabama after he'd been fired at USC after all that craziness. He goes to Alabama, and Nick Saban essentially said, look, I find the Saban story fascinating. When it's all over, the Nick Saban story is so interesting, and this is a big chapter in it. He says, look, you're a smart guy. You'll figure this out, which is kind of Saban's way of going, I think you're the guy to figure it out. I'm a defensive guy. I don't know that I can figure it out. Figure out what they're doing at Ole Miss, ironically, with Hugh Freeze. What it is that Gus Malzahn is doing that's giving us some problems. Figure it out. Let's put some of that in our offense and go from there. Mm-hmm. And by God, Lane Kiffin did. But before that, Lane Kiffin was more of a pro-style offensive system guy. He didn't do a lot of the wide-open spread, pass-happy stuff that people say that he is. That's not really what they did. And so he gets to Alabama where you have all these athletes. You always have elite receivers. You typically always have great running backs. You're always pretty good up front, yet his first quarterback there was not a very good quarterback. And so he had to make it work, and he did, and then he goes to FAU, and it's funny, you know, I'm jumping around a little bit, and I'm talking to myself some, and you just get to be my sounding board. It's funny, Kiffin does these press conferences with us, and I'll hear people go, man, he didn't say anything. And I'm always kind of thinking, well, I'm not sure you were really listening, because he actually does say some things sometimes that it'll get sort of buried, but he'll give you a little insight, especially into him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Lane Kiffin loves the idea of balance. He loves the idea of, I'm going to take what I have. He said it the other day. He said, we have an offensive system, but we kind of see what we have in camp and then sort of build the system around those players. No, you don't abandon the system and change the system or whatnot, because that would be stupid. But he's not stubborn. Like, some coaches are stubborn. Like, we're going to run this play and we're going to run it this way. And by God, even though this tailback's not the same as this tailback from a year ago, we're going to do it this way. Or I've got a different kind of receiver. That's what he did at Alabama. One year it was Amari Cooper. One year it's the running back for the Titans now, whose name is Derrick Henry. It's those guys. I mean, those are completely different offenses. I mean, you build an offense around Derrick Henry and you build an offense around Amari Cooper, those two offenses aren't going to look the same. That was the genius, really, offensively of Kiffin, is that those were the same offenses. They just utilized different strengths than they had the year before because, well, when you have Derrick Henry, yeah, you're going to feed Derrick Henry. But when you don't have Derrick Henry and the next guy that's behind him the next year, or the next guys in Alabama's case, they don't have that same skill set, well, you'd be foolish to say, well, we're going to do it the exact same way. You don't do it that way. And, not everybody's an Amari Cooper. Not everybody can be that big of can handle that much of a workload at wide receiver. A lot of wide receivers would get beaten down like that over the course of a season. Not everybody's Julio Jones or A.J. Brown or whatever. I mean, some of those guys are a little, a little slimmer, and and they get popped. So, yeah, that's kind of my point.
I mean, it wasn't too long ago that Lane Kiffin was using a fullback, and Blake Sims, which I think is his best coaching job he's ever done, was under center a good bit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he's going to find a matchup and he is going to expose you until you stop it. He's going to identify who his playmakers are, and he's going to give them the ball in space as much as possible. You mentioned Amari Cooper. They moved him everywhere in that offense. They put him in slot. They put him out wide. They put him in motion. He did the same thing with Kenyon Drake. They moved TJ Yeldon around in the backfield a lot. They ran screens. They ran inside zone. They ran under center ISO plays. Whatever's working, he's not going to be married to one style or one thing. He's just going to do whatever works to get 6 points, and that's all he cares about. So going back to the whole reason this conversation started, they have found something running the football with Jerry Neely, Snoop Conner, Henry Parrish, Kentrell Bullock, Isaiah Woolard, whoever it is. They have found something up front with that offensive line. And I think if Orlando Umana comes back and can play at center, Ben Brown at guard gives them, I think, a much better all-around offensive line. And look, I mean, I don't think it's too crazy to think that there's at least 3-4 guys on that line that can play in the league.
No, I don't either. And I think one of the interesting things, I'm going to write about this on Sunday, is all about depth. One of the things with this team is that they're deeper on the interior, guard, center, guard, than they are on the two tackles. And so, yeah, you want to run the football. You don't want to get into the habit of throwing 50 times a game, because now you're sort of jeopardizing 2 or 3 of your most precious commodities. Obviously, Matt Corral and Nick Broker. I mean, Nick's a physical guy. You'd like to see Nick sort of just get after guys a little bit. And, yeah, so but from a recruiting standpoint, they're looking for those kinds of guys. And I think it's interesting that they've gone and gotten 3 offensive linemen so far?
3, yeah. Cushman, Gagafian, and Hurst.
Might go get one more, and then after that, you probably are thinking, if you continue to add, you're thinking about adding older guys, which brings up a topic that we'll get to in a minute. We'll get to it in a second after we do this, but I'll tease it. There's discussion out there, and it's legitimate. I asked Lane Kiffin about it the other day, and he gave me a pretty good answer. There's conversation in the NCAA and about doing this immediately if they can get the details worked out, to expand signing classes starting in December, depending on how many transfers you lose. We'll talk about it in a second. First, I'm going to tell you that we're brought to you by Daniel Barfield Wealth Management. They've been around for about 21 years, serving individuals and businesses in the Oxford and North Mississippi area. Daniel carries both CFP and CPA designations. He's affiliated with the Advisors Resource Council, a registered investment advisory firm with offices in Oxford, New Orleans, Dallas, and the surrounding areas. They offer comprehensive financial planning, including investment management, estate and tax planning, insurance planning, and business retirement plans. 662-236-6454 or barfieldwealthmanagement.com to find out how he can help you. Brought to you by Billy's Small Batch Bacon. My friend William Stitt has mastered the art of bacon. His grocery and restaurant in Fairhope, Alabama is called the Old 27 Grill, and if you're down there, you should absolutely check it out. Billy has perfected the bacon curing process. It takes 8 days to perfectly cure bacon. Not 7, not 9, 8. So try Billy's Bacon, and if you're not down there, it's okay. Get on the internet. BillysBacon.com, BILLES Bacon.com. Order 5 pounds or more. Use the promo code Rebel Grove, and you'll get a Billy's Bacon hat. Also brought to you by our friends at Alpha Specialties. Alpha, located at 1670 Highway 80 in Pearl, Mississippi. They are your trailer-specific professional. If you want to haul it, they can call it at Alpha. It's the premium trailer dealership in Mississippi. They've got load trail. They've also got Hallmark cargo trailers. They've got the ability to work with third parties, to have game day trailers, concession trailers built. They've got spare tires and wheels starting at just $100. A full selection of trailer parts and accessories, hitches, winches, straps, and more. They do all types of truck accessories. They do all types of truck repair as well. Concession, horse, utility, gooseneck, RV, all of that. All those trailers, they can repair them there at Alpha Specialty. 601-932-9798 or alphaofms.com. Also brought to you by Jennings Executive Search. Jennings specializes in the recruitment of accounting, finance, strategy, corporate development, data service professionals, and more, from the staff to C-level in all industries. So whether you're a small business owner who needs a finance leader, you work in a private equity, or you run a team at a Fortune 500 company, John and his recruitment team of former public accountants will simplify the process by presenting you with a short list of only the most qualified candidates. Get in touch with him on LinkedIn. It's Jon Jennings, or jon@jenningsexec.com, or you can call him at 404-536-3000. And we're brought to you by Muddy Water Camo. I have more information for you here real soon in the next few days about Muddy Water Camo and their new products that are coming out. For now, though, go to Muddy Water Outdoors. Start checking it out. They've got some of the new products online today. We'll tell you more about how to get. I think it's you go to, and I'll make sure of this here on the message board in the next couple days. But it's promo code Rebel Grove. Get 35% off at muddywateroutdoors.com. 35% off muddywateroutdoors.com by entering the promo code Rebel Grove. And we're brought to you by Joey Erickson, Heron Gear Chevrolet. Let Joey help you find the vehicle you're looking for at a price you can afford. Choose from a full selection of new Chevy vehicles or get a great deal on numerous brands of reliable pre-owned vehicles. Just give Joey a call or a text at 662-571-2367 or see him in person at 1685 High Street in Jackson. Test drive that new or used vehicle you've been wanting and let him earn your business. Tell him that you heard about him on the Oxford Exxon podcast or the Soft Verbal podcast, and with any purchase, it's a $50 gas card from Joey Erickson at Heron Gear Chevrolet. All right, Zach, we're talking about expanding signing classes. This is something you and I have talked about. It's a problem. Everyone knows it's a problem, and it's about to be a real problem if they don't do something about it, because the pandemic, the NCAA did the right thing with the pandemic, and they gave everybody a free year. And so now you have these massive 5th and 6th year classes, and those cats are going to get out. You got guys that leave early for the NFL. They're going to get out. And you've got guys that are going to say, hey, this isn't the place for me. And I'm not talking about Ole Miss here. I'm talking about in general everybody. This isn't the place for me. I'm going to get in the one-time no penalty transfer and I'm going to hop in the portal, there's a chance that rosters get gutted by that. And if that's the case, and you can only bring in 25, it could take you years to get back to the number. And so there is some talk now about a compromise where you still sign 25 and you can replace players lost to the transfer portal. I think the number that they're looking at right now is up to 7. So potentially you could bring in 32 guys on initial counters, which I think is a brilliant idea, and it's something that needs to be done. Otherwise, it's the high school kids that are going to really pay the price.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is it kind of levels everything off to where prospects coming out of high school are not going to be affected by this. And, I mean, look, we make jokes all the time about the NCAA and, the betterment of the student athlete and all of that. But I do think that this is a good thing for them to implement because it is helping the student athlete and the prospective student athlete that is coming to college. I think it's a great idea. It's going to, and for the people that are going to say, well, it's just only going to help the blue bloods or the people that recruit. Well, it doesn't matter. They're going to recruit like that no matter what. So yeah, okay, they can sign more players, but again, it's going to help level everything off and, even the playing field for everyone. And with this weird pandemic year where people got a free year, it makes the most sense.
Yeah, everything can't be about competition, right? Some things have to be about opportunity. And if you lose 37 guys from your program and you only can replace 25 of them, well, do the math. Those are opportunities that are lost, scholarship opportunities that are lost. Look, different coaches have different views of the transfer portal, and I think it's pretty obvious. I talked to Southern Miss coach Will Hall. You'll hear that tonight on Hand Raise Guys and tomorrow in podcast form on the Oxford Exxon podcast. But I was talking to him about it, and he was like, look, most guys that are in the portal because they can't play. And so not everybody in the portal belongs someplace. But there are guys in the portal who deserve an opportunity, and then there is a temptation for some of these programs. And ULM, for example, how tempting would it be for Terry Bowden and Rich Rodriguez? My God, at that step, how tempting would it be for those guys to go, why should we recruit 25 kids from Neville and Ouachita and West Monroe and Ruston and Rayville and Jonesboro Hodge and Vicksburg when we could just go get 18, 19 kids out of the portal who are physically bigger? They're 3 years older. Some guys maybe played at Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Texas Tech or Missouri or whatever. Make your school up. I don't care. Why not go get those guys? Well, if you go get those guys, those kids that I just mentioned from Neville and West Monroe and Ruston and Bastrop and Rayville and these other towns in North Louisiana, Minden or whatever, those kids don't get opportunities now. And the only ones that benefit at that point are the junior colleges. And with all due respect to junior colleges, that is not the answer.
Yeah. It's like the meme that, it's like when that person you really hate makes a good point.
You hate me?
Not you, just the people that it came up with the idea.
I understand.
Yeah. It's like, man, like we really love dogging on the NCAA and everybody for everything else that they do and say. But this is a great idea, and I think it's if it's going to help the high school kid make the transition easier, if it's going to help colleges that have been hampered by not signing, 25 players every single year and getting that quality depth, this is only going to help them bridge that gap to, make for better games, make for teams to have more complete rosters, give teams more depth, and to inevitably have a better product on the field. I mean, I think this is just something that should have been done years ago, and they're doing it now, so it's better late than never. So I don't hate it at all. I think it's a great idea, and I think it's only going to help programs like Ole Miss that are trying to build the quality depth that we talk about every single show to compete with the Blue Bloods.
All right, let's get back to Ole Miss recruiting a little bit. We predicted correctly that Bryson Hurst was the next commitment. Who are some guys sort of on the radar now that you're keeping an eye on that could be next as we get into late August, early September? We're approaching the point after all of these years. Feels like all of these years. God, it was like forever. We're approaching the point where kids are actually going to get to go to games and be unofficial visitors and talk to coaches and such after games and all of that. I mean, like some degree of a return to normalcy. I had some worries when all of this stuff started with the Delta variant and all of this that we were going to get right back into this dead period thing. But as of this moment, knock on wood, that does not appear to be the case. So who are some guys that you sort of have an eye on?
Right now, a couple guys from Alabama, and then kind of a recent development, Nick Cole, the athlete out of Donaldsonville, Georgia. A lot of momentum there for Ole Miss. He took an unofficial visit to Ole Miss. He really likes the coaching staff. It seemed like it was going to be a Florida school versus Ole Miss battle with Florida State and Miami in there in the mix. But Chris Partridge, Terrell Buckley, they've done a really nice job recruiting him. I believe, could be wrong, it is my understanding that they're recruiting him as a safety. He kind of does everything in high school. 5'11", 170 pounds, plays a lot of receiver, a lot of slot. They just kind of get him the ball and let him do what he does. But he's a very versatile secondary prospect. He can play some corner. I think he's athletic enough and physical enough, despite not being very big. He can play close to the line of scrimmage and be an effective safety. So I would say that he's probably, I don't know if anything's imminent, but I think Ole Miss has all the momentum there right now. And then the two guys from Alabama, I think Ole Miss continues to trend in the right direction for Quinshon Judkins. He didn't play last week in their week 1 game. He sat out. They had just kind of a nagging, I believe it was a quad injury. It was either a quad or a hamstring. Nothing serious, just sat out. And I saw whoever they put in there as his replacement ran for over 300 yards in that game. So Opelika's going to be okay if Quinshon Judkins can't tote the rock, it seems. I think that they're trending in the right direction for him. It's my opinion that he's Kevin Smith's number 1 guy on the board at running back. They love his game. And then, or he's at Pike Road, not Opelika. Opelika, there is a prospect there, Jarrell Stinson, who unofficially visited to Ole Miss. And I think that Ole Miss is in a good spot for him. I don't know. He's kind of teased committing somewhere soon. He didn't really say when. He said something maybe a week or two ago that he was going to possibly do it in the next couple of weeks. But with players playing their senior season now, the season underway, they're going to be busy every week with game prep and watching film and lifting weights. Maybe he still does it. I don't know, but I think Ole Miss is in a really good spot there. I think they're competing with Florida State for Stinson. So a lot of Florida State Ole Miss battles on the recruiting trail this year, and a lot with Miami too. But those are the 3 names that I would keep an eye on right now. Real quick, going back to offensive line, you mentioned maybe adding one more at the high school level. I think they would love to add Jacob Hood, another enormous prospect from Nashville.
Sure. They would definitely take him. They would love to take him.
Yeah. If I think it's Ole Miss is in it. I think Georgia has the edge right now. If they don't get Hood, I would say they probably go JUCO and focus on the big fella from Gulf Coast, Percy Lewis, who's committed to Oregon. They're continuing to chip away there and trying to keep him in state. He's originally from the state of Mississippi, but those are, I would say, Judkins, Stinson, and Cole are the 3 names to keep an eye on right now. If Ole Miss were to get another one, that would probably be one of those 3.
Anything new on some of the high-profile names that we hear all the time? Otis, guys like that. I mean, those names always always get those names kind of in mailbag questions or that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Kamari Rogers.
Yeah, I was going to say Otis and Rogers are probably their two top prospects inside the state of Mississippi and two of the best in the country, both Rivals 100 players. I, I think Otis is going to kind of say all the right things right now. He's committed to Alabama. Doesn't want to say anything to jeopardize losing a spot there. But I still think that Ole Miss is going to hang in there and is going to continue to chip away as much as they can. I would probably venture to say they have at least 4 or 5 people on staff recruiting him at the same time. So they're letting him know that he's a priority. And same with Rogers. He is another guy that says all the right things on social media. He always hypes up Miami. He's recruiting for them on Twitter, on Instagram, all of that. But I just, Terrell Buckley's known him since he was in 8th grade, and I think that that's going to be a factor until the very end, until signing day. So those are probably the two most high-profile names that are out there that they're going to have a shot at, in my opinion. Speaking of high-profile, if you're in the Oxford area and you need to find a nice laid-back spot for a drink, for a bite to eat, look no further than Lamar Yard, the quintessential family-friendly and pet-friendly indoor-outdoor restaurant venue in Oxford. It's on South Lamar, 10,000 square feet of indoor space, 3/4 of an acre of outdoor space. You got a full stage, indoor and outdoor projectors, 3 bars, children's playground, and parking on site. Go there, enjoy their open fire barbecue, and now you can contact Lamar Yard and ask about their catering and private event rental options. Perfect for the Grove, perfect for an engagement party, perfect for a gender reveal, what have you. Anything and everything. Catering, private event, rental options are provided by Lamar Yard now. So call them. Perfect for your next big celebration or in the Grove this fall for a home game. Check out that and more at lamaryard.com. Also, we want to welcome a new sponsor of the podcast, Sola on South Lamar in Oxford. Clever dishes, captivating cocktails. Go there, enjoy their top-notch cuisine and libations 6 days a week, whether it's happy hour 3 to 6, fresh squeezed margaritas, ramen, 2-for-1 Moscow mules. They are bringing the best and brightest to you in-house or via curbside pickup. They're still offering that right now. Call them 662-238-3500 or check them out at solaoxford.com. Chef Erica Leip and her committed team of food and beverage enthusiasts are wanting to feed and, I guess, cool you off with some cocktails today. So check them out. Podcast also brought to you by Kelly English Restaurant Group. The Memphis restaurateur and renowned chef and his team are offering nationwide shipping and virtual cooking classes. If you need nationwide shipping information, go to irisetc.com. And then if you want to book a virtual cooking class, go to table22.com/iris. And when you do, use promo code SoftVerbal21 for half off your first month of Cooking with Kelly. That's all caps, SoftVerbal21, and get half off your first month of virtual cooking classes. Podcast also brought to you by Cherokee Valley Golf Course, located in Olive Branch, Mississippi. Go see Cody Allen and the crew to take on the challenge of their wide fairways and large championship Bermuda greens. Got 2 putting greens, a driving range, and a chipping green to get your game tightened up. Book a tee time online at olivebranchgolf.com.
How many games do you referee a week?
Just one. I'm varsity only now. No more middle school. Not doing any on the weekends. Just I'm prime time now, Neal.
Is when you do a middle school game, is it more babysitting than it is refereeing? Because I mean, you could call 1,000. You could call 1,000 penalties in those games, right?
Yeah, it's mostly preventative officiating. I mean, if it's blatant and it's at the point of attack, you're throwing a flag. But most of it is, coaching the players a little bit, teaching them, hey, maybe you had a great block there. Maybe you could have let him go. Don't hold too long. Keep your hands inside, that sort of thing. A lot of it though is just staring at the clock, making sure it's running. We don't have an ECO on site for those games most of the time, so it's keeping an eye on somebody that's up in the press box eating nachos, making sure that they're starting and stopping the clock. But it's all varsity now. So first game was last week. It was actually not that hot. Man, you want to talk about kids not hydrating, man. Second half, we had people dropping like flies, cramping. And I told both teams during timeouts, I was like, guys, you got to drink water during the week. Drink it on Friday. It's too late.
It's too
You got to
late.
do it during the week.
I tell Carson this all the time. Like, he's got these soccer tournaments, on Saturday. Like, he's got a game at 8 and he's got a game at 1:30. And I'm like, man, I'm just telling you, you're all good for that 8 o'clock game. But that 1:30 game, you're gonna be a little more dehydrated than you think, and it's gonna be hotter than hell. You have to drink all week long. You got to drink water. You got to drink water. You got to drink water, and it's hard to get kids to do that. They just don't think about it. And
yeah,
I get it. I didn't do it either when I was that age.
Well, you see it a lot now with strength and conditioning programs. I would probably venture to say most Power 5 program, probably every program, they weigh people before and after practice, and they gauge the weight that you lost in practice. You got to start hydrating again. You got to get fluids in you. You got to get food in you. You got to get all that back because these big Power 5 athletes that get out there and they sweat for 3-4 hours. You're just getting rid of a lot of fluid, so you got to rehydrate. So, yeah, I mean, the days of being in class and drinking Coke and what was it? In high school we had Coke machines everywhere. It was like the Aquafina, fruit punch drinks. And can't do that.
No,
can't do that. You got to drink water.
When you're refereeing, do you catch yourself watching a player, not being a fan, but just watching one guy, or have you gotten pretty disciplined about doing your job?
Honestly, I'll say it's a little bit of both. I mean, I've been doing it for 12 years now. So you kind of have your keys, what you're looking at every play of what, me being a back judge, you're always counting 11 players every play, keeping the play clock. But a lot of it is, making sure that you're getting downfield. I think the one thing for back judge is you can't get beat to the goal line. So if there's a break, if there's a long pass or a long run, you got to get on your horse and get there. But yeah, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't admit that in some games, if there's a really good player and he's out there making plays, your eyes are going to gravitate towards that player to see what they're doing, whether they're getting the ball or not. Because they're attracting a lot of attention, again, whether they're getting the football or not. So, it's a little bit of both.
You got anything else?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of doing a little bit of both,
yep.
If you need a commercial and residential alarm security, look no further than Protection Unlimited, the Mid-South's leader in both of those. Wayne Lowry and his team have been serving the greater Memphis area and North Mississippi for 40-plus years, and they would love to get your business and your family protected today. Cutting-edge security for your home or business with video surveillance options, monitoring 24/7, 365. You can reach them via phone at 901-754-6510. Podcast also brought to you by Bluff City Advisory Group, Memphis' leading team of finance professionals. Former Ole Miss Rebel and founding partner Ben Still is making it his goal to help you meet the ongoing demands of your financial needs. Learn more about them at bluffcityadvisory.com. Looking at doing two things at once here. Maybe you're looking to own a home or you're looking for rental property or an investment property. Give the Barry Home Team a call. Whether it's cash offers, wholesale offers, escalation clauses, iFinder, all of these buzzwords and phrases that you may know nothing about in the real estate business, they can answer all of those questions and more. Rick and Stacy, over 175 homes sold and more than $42 million in volume closed in this year alone. So call them at 901-481-6420 for all of your buying, selling, or investing needs. After you do that, go ahead and give the folks at Saddle Creek Title a call, the Mid-South's leader in client-focused, innovative closing solutions. Neal Hand and his team are more than just a real estate closing firm. They are dedicated to going the distance to ensure the ease and growth of your real estate business. Check them out at saddlecreektitle.com. Last but certainly not least, Soft Herbal is brought to you by Davis McCord State Farm. Good neighbor service and surprisingly great rates. He's your one-stop shop in Tennessee and Mississippi for the service you deserve at the price you want. So stop looking around. Give Davis and his team a call at 901-755-6110 for your surprisingly great rates today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
That's one of those jingles that stood the test of time, right? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. You can say it, you can sing it. You sort of know it. If I say like a good neighbor, you immediately think State Farm every time.
Everybody, it's marketing 101. I mean, find something easy and catchy, and everybody knows exactly what you're doing. So, really stood the test of time. I don't know how long State Farm's been around, but I highly doubt they've changed it since they started using that.
Forever. I remember we had a State Farm agent in Ruston growing up. It was Skip Russell. I remember always hearing that name, Skip Russell. You just knew who Skip Russell was.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think if I got anything else. If there's any questions I had or topics that I was.
You wrote a story. You wrote a story about a 2022 quarterback. Are you hearing anything new about what they might do at the quarterback position for this class?
No, and I talked to Robbie Roper, quarterback out of Rossville, Georgia. It's on the site at rebelgrove.com. Check it out. He was pretty blatant and honest with how his recruitment's going. He's got one offer right now from Western Carolina. I kind of looked him up. I saw he had a huge week 1 game, over 500 total yards of offense, 6 touchdowns. And I was kind of wondering, how in the world does this guy only have one offer when he plays at a 7A school in Georgia? But he was pretty honest I asked him for a self-assessment, and he was like, man, I got to get better moving around the pocket. I didn't really get to showcase that last year because his offensive line was so good. He's been to some camps. He threw for the coaching staff in Oxford, said he's hearing from them, Georgia Tech and Florida State right now, and it seems like all of them are just kind of in wait-and-see mode. They want to see how his senior season goes. But, I mean, he's got the frame to play in the SEC, 6'3", 210 pounds, plays at a really good high school. He said he's been in constant communication with Chris Partridge, and they're just saying that they want to keep monitoring his development and see how his senior season goes. So as far as any other prospect, I put a chick on the site, I guess a couple of days ago. Justin Martin's still the guy. They're still talking with him. I think it's going to be a tough pull. He seems to be pretty locked in with Cal right now, but I think that's who they're going for first and foremost. And then after that, they'll look and see if they have a high school kid that they like. If not, I think they're going to go transfer portal, and I think there's going to be plenty of options at the end of the season.
Well, Zach, appreciate the time. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Good luck with your game this weekend, and enjoy the start of the football season. Getting rolling on Saturday. The big Illinois. Who is it? Illinois and
Nebraska.
Illinois, Nebraska. The game that everyone talks about year round. We get it week 1, week 0 actually.
That's what I was going to ask you. Okay, real quick.
Yep.
So on our show last night, we do a gambling show every week once the season gets going. We started with team totals. Some interesting ones here that we touched on, and I want to get your thoughts real quick. Arkansas over under 6 wins. What do you think?
See, 6 feels like exactly right to me.
Could be a push.
Let me pull their schedule because I'll tell you kind of what I think. Contrary to accusations, I don't have the Razorbacks schedule memorized. I really don't. I know
it's not up on the. Are you pretending like it's not on the wall?
It is not on the wall.
The schedule magnet's on the fridge, probably though.
You know what? My wife's not a big refrigerator magnet person, so it's probably not. All right, so they open with Rice. That's a W. They get Georgia Southern in week 3. That's a W. UAPB is a W. So they've got 1, 2, 3 surefire wins. I'm of the opinion they've got a shot in week 2 against Texas. It's a big game. It's early in the season. Sarkisian's in year 1. I'm not going to do this Texas is back thing like everybody does every single year, and then they're not. So to me, that's winnable. They've got 3 games in a row after Georgia Southern, Texas A&M, at Georgia, at Ole Miss, that I think are losses. I think they could beat Auburn at home October 16th. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I think they could very easily beat Mississippi State at home on November the 6th. I don't think that's impossible. I don't think they're winning at Alabama, and I think they could beat Missouri. But I'm
Ooh, okay.
inclined to go under though, because I think if you put my feet to the fire, I would say even if they beat Texas, let's give them Texas for fun. Rice, Texas, and Georgia Southern, that's 3 in a row. Then they lose 3 in a row. Let's say they don't beat Auburn, they beat UAPB, they beat Mississippi State. They're 5-4 headed down the stretch. At LSU, at Alabama, that's L, and then Missouri at home, you're kind of beat up. Probably go under at 5-7. I will say this: the people that are like Arkansas is going to suck, I don't think they're going to suck. I think they're going to be an okay team.
I think 5-7 for them is fine.
Sure.
The fan base is not going to like it because it's 5-7, but that's not terrible.
The realistic it depends on what it looks like. If it's 5-7 with let's say it's 5-7 and the game against A&M is pretty competitive, and the game at Ole Miss is not a complete road route, and let's say the game against Auburn's a 4-point game. Yeah, sure, that'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be okay. And look, they could beat Auburn at home. I mean, I'm not buying this Auburn is a superpower thing, and I'm not doing it with Missouri either. And so they get Missouri at home at the end of the year, and if they're playing for something, they might be okay. I think Sam's going to do a good job. But I mean, there's a part of me that thinks Arkansas 6th instead of Mississippi State in the West. I mean, I think everybody goes Mississippi State 6th by default, and I'm not sure Arkansas might not be a little better team.
I have big time pause there with KJ Jefferson being the guy. Is he going to be able to get it done? You got to have a quarterback in this league, and if he cannot consistently do it week in, week out, they're going to have issues. You mentioned him a couple times here. We went over on Missouri 7 wins. All jokes aside with Eli Drinkwitz and how big of a goober he is and how he tries to do the social media thing like Kiffin, I think they're eerily similar to Ole Miss. Connor Bazelak was really good a year ago to close the season. Second year in the system for him, kind of similar to Matt Corral, second year in the system at Ole Miss. And their defense was just awful last year. I think they're very similar to Ole Miss, where if Bazelak can have the season that they think he can, Tyler Beatty's back. They've got the Ohio State transfer Mookie Cooper on offense. It's going to be getting a ton of touches. If their defense is just somewhat improved, like Ole Miss's defense, if Ole Miss's defense can just do something to be better, I think that they have a chance to win 8 games.
Central Michigan's a win. Southeast Missouri State's a win. Tennessee's a win. North Texas is a win. At Vanderbilt's a win. South Carolina's a win. Yeah, you're right. They had 6 wins right off the bat. And then the only games
what I think they could start out undefeated.
The only games that I look at and go, that'll be tough. At Kentucky will be tough. They should beat Boston College.
Yeah.
Texas A&M at home's
7.
difficult. Florida, Look, they could win as many as 9, but now we're giving them, to get them to 9, you're giving them
toss-ups.
You're giving them Kentucky, Boston College, and Arkansas, and I don't think they win all 3 of those on the road. I don't think they go win all 3 of those games.
They could get to 8-4. There's a path there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about it last night, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, they're a lot like Ole Miss with, if the defense can be just somewhat better, they can win 1 or 2 more games that they shouldn't because of how bad the defense was a year ago. But all right, last one before we close up shop here.
All right.
Tennessee under 6. I love this pick.
Yeah, I think I do too. Let me pull up their schedule and take a look at it. I don't like their team. I don't
even know if they're going to have a full roster with everybody leaving.
Okay, so here's their schedule. They get Bowling Green, and I think that's a win. I think they lose to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They beat Tennessee Tech. They lose at Florida. They lose at Missouri. They've got a critical game if they're going to try to get bowl eligible against South Carolina at home. I think Ole Miss beats them. They lose at Alabama, of course. They lose at Kentucky. They lose at home to Georgia. I mean, they should technically finish with wins over South Alabama and Vanderbilt, but there by the end, they might be a little checked out. They might be a little beat up. They're kind of thin. I love the under there.
Yeah, that early stretch is tough. I mean, how motivated can you be playing against Ole Miss with that start? Because I think they're going to be what, 1-3, 1-4.
I mean, even if they beat Pittsburgh, they're going to be no better than 4-2 when Ole Miss comes to town. And if they lose to Pittsburgh, they're probably 3-3.
Oh, okay. We hadn't looked at the non-con.
Yeah, it's 3-3, and then you get Ole Miss, Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia, boom, 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 week after week after week. That's tough.
Yeah, and that fan base, I've been in that stadium when things aren't going their way, and it is a weird atmosphere when Tennessee's not playing well. So, yeah, I love the under 6 pick there.
All
right. Hey, football's back this weekend.
Football's back. If you're in the live stream and you're listening, we'll have hand raise guys tonight. I've got a lot of football for you. Andy Staples of The Athletic will join, so will Ryan Brown of the next round, and Southern Miss coach Will Hall all joining hand raise guys, and that'll be available for Friday's Oxford Exxon podcast. So that does it for this edition of the Soft Verbal Podcast. Don't forget collegecornerstore.com, your place to get stocked up for your football gear as you get ready for the 2021 season. For Zach Berry, I'm Neal McCready. Until next time, take care.